Okay, live video is starting.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Vince Murphy, and I'm the Cultural Affairs Officer here at U.S. Consulate, Karachi. And I'm here with my colleague Noe, who is a consular officer and works in the non-immigrant visa section in the U.S. Consulate, Karachi. The United States government is committed to supporting educational opportunities and academic exchanges for Pakistani students from all backgrounds. This week is International Education Week, during which we celebrate the benefits of international education and exchange programs worldwide. This joint initiative of the United States Department of State and the United States Department of Education is part of an effort to promote programs that attract future leaders from abroad to study, learn, and exchange experiences in the United States. Our partner in this effort is the United States Educational Foundation Pakistan, or USEFP. USEFP currently administers 9 academic exchange programs, including the world's largest Fulbright program. Through these programs, we were able to send 178 students on master's and PhD programs in the fall of 2022 to many of the best universities in the United States. In addition, we sent 188 undergraduate students for a semester of study in the United States last year, and 50 more are expected to depart in the spring of 2023 on the Global UGrad program. And we are proud that all of our programs are merit-based, and our selection processes are fair and transparent. For students seeking advice and assistance in applying to colleges and universities in the United States, USEFP offers free educational advising services in Islamabad, Lahore, and Karachi. I would urge anyone considering study abroad to learn more about why the U.S. is a great destination for higher education. You'll find all sorts of useful information on the USEFP and Education USA websites. And now I'd like to turn it over to my colleague Noe.
Thank you, and thank you for having us. It's a wonderful opportunity to talk to those that wish to study in the United States. First, a little bit of background. The Bureau of Consular Affairs within the Department of State provides consular services that protect U.S. citizens and their interests abroad, ensures U.S. border security, and facilitates the entry of legitimate travelers. National security is our top priority when adjudicating visa applications. Every prospective traveler to the United States undergoes extensive security screening. We must ensure that applicants seeking to travel to the United States, whatever their purpose may be, are qualified to receive visas and do not pose a threat to the country's security. And for applicants who are qualified to receive visas, we recognize that the facilitation of student and exchange visitor visas to qualified applicants results in numerous benefits to the United States, to include a positive effect on U.S. foreign policy and the United States image abroad, that students who study in the United States often attain positions of leadership in their own country, and they'll carry with them the experience they had in the United States. Facilitating student and exchange visitor visas also has a positive effect on the U.S. economy. According to the U.S. Department of Commerce, international students contribute tens of billions of dollars to the U.S. economy each year. At the end of my presentation, we will have time for a few questions, but I want to make clear that I will not be able to speak to specific cases. We'll also provide some resources for those interested in applying for a visa to the United States, where they can seek more information about the process. So a visa is essentially a sticker placed in your passport. It includes your photo, your name, date of birth, and your visa type. For example, for students, an F-1 visa. A visa gives the student the ability to come to the United States and apply for entry from the Department of Homeland Security at the port of entry, which in most cases is usually an airport. A visa does not guarantee that the student will be granted entry. That decision is made by the Customs and Border Protection official at the port of entry. So what type of visas can students apply for? For example, what is the difference between F, M, and J visas? J visas are for specific programs for a discrete amount of time, often exchange visitors, postgraduate students, and non-degree students such as physicians. F visas are for a specific academic or language program, and M visas are for vocational or other non-academic program. Most students apply for F visas. When you reach out to the schools that you're interested in attending in the United States, the schools will guide you toward which the appropriate category based on the program. A note about visa interviews and adjudications. When you interview for a visa, the law is applied the same worldwide, but processes can be different at each post. Therefore, it's very important that you check the post website for additional information. For example, if you're applying in Pakistan, you'll want to go to Mission Pakistan's website, whether that be the U.S. Embassy in Islamabad or the U.S. Consulate General in Karachi, for more information about specific requirements at those locations for visa adjudication. Students should apply for their visas as soon as possible to avoid being late for their program. Appointment wait times can differ, and administrative processing can delay the issuance of your visa. So it's better to schedule your appointment as soon as one is available. Another note about timing is that for F and M visas, we can only issue visas within 120 days of your program start date. For J visas, we can issue your visa as soon as you have your DS 2019 form that is granted to you from your school. For all visas, then that includes F, M, and J visas, no matter when your visa is granted, you can only travel to the United States within 30 days of your program start date. So those are two very sort of important timing issues that I want everybody to be aware of. You can, for F and M's, again, you can only be granted the visa within 120 days of your start date. For J's, you can apply for your visa as soon as you have your DS 2019. But for all students, you won't be able to enter the United States until 30 days prior to the start of your program. We can talk more about that when we take questions at the end of this presentation. Before your interview, you'll need to complete the DS 160 visa application, pay the application fee, and schedule your visa appointment. You'll also need to pay your SEVIS fee. SEVIS, which stands for Students and Exchange Visitor Information System, is administered by ICE, which is a branch of the Department of Homeland Security in the United States. You can find more information about paying your SEVIS fee at fmjfee.com. Also important to note is that with respect to SEVIS, ICE typically has one SEVIS representative throughout the different regions of the United States. So depending on where you're applying to go to school, they will have a representative on hand to answer your questions about paying your SEVIS fee. The third thing you want to make sure of before you come for your interview is that your passport has at least 6 months of validity after your planned arrival in the United States. So if your passport does not have enough validity, you will need to get a new passport before you come for your visa interview. When you appear for your visa interview at the consulate or embassy, you need certain documents. First, your passport. Second, a photo for the visa. Third, your DS 160 appointment confirmation page. Fourth, if you're an F or an M student, you'll need your I-20 form that is provided to you by the university or school. And if you're a J visa applicant, you'll need your DS 2019. And then fifth, you'll need receipt of that SEVIS fee. When you pay your service fee, they will give you a receipt called the I-901 form. You'll want to print that out and bring that with you to the visa interview. These are the only required documents for a visa interview. But again, you want to check each post for special procedures for suggested additional documents. You may also feel free to bring whatever you think is relevant in addition to these documents, but please understand that the consular officer may not choose to review all the documents you bring. So during the interview itself, what is the consular officer looking for? We are looking for 4 things. First, who you are and what your ties are to your country. What is your story? Why do you want to study in the United States? Consular officers understand that student applicants more often than not are young and have not traveled outside their home country, nor have they traveled to the United States, and they may be nervous, and that's okay. But we just want you to tell your story in your words. Second, what do you want to do? What do you want to study, and why do you want to study it? The third thing consular officers are looking for is how you're going to pay for it. Do you have liquid assets to cover the first year of tuition and a plan in place to pay for the remaining years of the program? And fourth, we want to know what you intend to do after you've completed your proposed study. It is incumbent on you, the applicant, to walk up to the window and explain these things to the consular officer. Now, most visas are issued, but there are times when visas are refused. The most common refusals for student applicants are 214B, 221G, and 212A. 214B, applicants for student visas who are refused most often are refused under 214B of the INA. Section 214B explicitly presumes that every non-immigrant visa applicant to be an intending immigrant and places the burden on the applicant of disproving this presumption. In adjudicating non-immigrant visa applications, consular officers examine each application individually to determine whether the applicant qualifies for visa issuance according to U.S. immigration laws and regulations. Applicants for non-immigrant student visas must further demonstrate that they properly meet student visa requirements, including having a residence abroad with no immediate intent of abandoning that residence, the intent to depart from the United States upon completion of their course of study, and possessing sufficient funds to pursue the proposed course of study. If a student receives a 214B denial, they can apply again. There is no limit on the number of times an applicant may reapply. Sometimes a student is able to receive an approval at a subsequent application, and this may be because their situation has changed or because they were better able to express themselves to the consular officer in subsequent interviews. This may be, again, because they were nervous for the first time. Another refusal that commonly applies to students is 221G. That is more commonly associated to administrative processing, which I will talk about a little bit later. The third most common refusal for student applicants is 212A. This encompasses a wide array of ineligibilities and is more common with those who have traveled to the United States or have had previous experience in the United States. They can include ineligibilities such as DUIs, drug possession, and shoplifting. It is very important that students are completely honest about their situations and that they tell the entire story. There are some situations in which the consular officer can work with the applicant, but we need you as the applicant to be upfront with us. If you are denied a student visa at your interview, the document that you receive at the embassy or consulate will explain and cite the section of law that you were refused under. As visa records are considered confidential under 222F of the INA, again, I'm unable to discuss the specific details of cases with anyone other than the applicant themselves. Now, some visa applications are refused under 221G for administrative processing, which takes additional time after the applicant's interview by a consular officer. It may include resolving questions about an applicant's eligibility or any other question a consular officer must resolve to be able to issue the visa. The specific reasons for administrative processing will vary from case to case, but all applicants will be informed at the interview of what will happen next, whether they need to provide additional information or documents, or whether they just simply need to wait until they hear from the consular section after we are able to make a decision on your case. Timing for the completion of administrative processing varies based on individual circumstances. We do our best to ensure that the administrative processing for students and exchange visitors is completed in enough time to allow timely travel for you to begin your program. Keeping administrative processing timelines in mind, visa applicants are urged to apply as early as possible for their visa well in advance of their anticipated travel date. So what can applicants do in addition to applying early? Again, check the embassy or check the website for the embassy or consulate where you'll be applying to see if there are any additional documents you need to bring with you to your interview. And finally, for applicants refused under 221G for administrative processing, I would emphasize that it's important that you keep listening to what the consular officer is saying after they tell you that you were refused. There will be important information about the next steps, and the administrative processing may be followed by visa approval and issuance. Again, the applicant will receive further information, perhaps to provide additional information or to wait to hear from post. If you want to know more information about the status of your case, you may follow up with the consular section where you applied, but I would urge you to wait at least 60 days from your interview date or from the submission of additional documents, whichever is later, before you start inquiring about the status of your application. Finally, I want to talk about some myths about applying for student visas and dispel some of those. First of all, there is no right or wrong answer at visa interviews. Everybody is unique. Again, it's important that you tell us about you and your story and that you are completely honest. Another myth is that you have to go to a big university. Public and private colleges and universities of all sizes are approved to admit international students, and therefore those attending these private colleges and universities of all sizes are eligible for student visas. Another myth I want to dispel is that you're more likely to get a visa if you use a visa fixer. I want to make very clear that visa fixers have no sway over adjudications, and they have no inside information on the process. And I know that a lot of applicants that I see at the window think that they have to use a visa fixer because they will tell them what to say, and again, that is false. And lastly, I want to absolutely reinforce that international students are welcome in the United States. International students are valued members of our academic communities, and we continue to issue thousands of student visas each year. Finally, there are some helpful websites that we can post perhaps in the chat later on or on our website that can help you as you prepare for a student's application interview. And again, I'll just quickly go over them now, but hopefully we can post them so that you can reference them later on after this event is over. And that is obviously travel.state.gov is a good resource for all visa applicants. For student visas specifically, educationusa.state.gov and j1visa.state.gov are very good resources for those interested in applying for student visas to prepare for their application and prepare for their interview. And of course, the embassy website in Pakistan and the consulate website for the U.S. Consulate General in Karachi are very good resources for those wishing to seek more information. And so with that very brief overview, hopefully brief, hopefully we can take some questions from the audience.
Well, thank you, Noe. That was great information. And we do have a number of questions that some people have asked. Let me start by asking a few. How long does my passport have to be valid in order to apply for a U.S. visa?
Again, at the time of application for your U.S. visa, we need to just make sure that your passport has 6 months of validity beyond your planned entry to the United States.
So say you're going to go 30 days before or 2 weeks before, that is the date beyond which you need 6 months of validity.
Correct.
Okay. Another question. If I am a third country national living in Pakistan, can I apply for a student visa in Pakistan?
Yes. Now, bear in mind that our appointment slots place a priority on those living in Pakistan and Pakistani nationals, but we do have appointments available for third country nationals. And I will say that you can apply in Pakistan in either the embassy or Consulate General Karachi. And I will also say for those that might be viewing outside of Pakistan, third country nationals can apply anywhere. There is no restriction, but please just understand that appointment availability for third country nationals might be harder to come by, so there might be a longer wait time.
Okay. Great. So how early, another question that someone asked, how early should I apply for my student visa?
I would say student visa applicants should apply as soon as possible. So as soon as you receive your I-20, which is for an F&M student, the form that you will receive from your university, or for J student applicants, as soon as you have your DS 2019, you should make plans to apply for your visa. Again, just because you look for open appointments doesn't mean that you'll get one right away. So there might be long lead times before you're actually able to appear at a consulate or at an embassy. So you should start to apply as soon as possible. But again, I will note that even though we can interview you outside 120 days, we won't be able to issue your visa until we are within the 120-day window before the start of your program.
Okay, that's great. Another participant has a question. He or she says, I have received an admission offer for 2 different U.S. universities. The first admission letter is offering a master's program, and the other admission letter is offering an undergraduate program. I want to ask, which offer is best for a visa? Currently, I have a master's degree already.
I would say my answer to that question is you should accept the program that's best for you in your situation. Either your decision, your choice in that situation will have no bearing on the visa interview or adjudication itself. So I would stress that you look at those 2 offers and decide what's best for you, because again, at the visa interview, you're going to need to explain why you're pursuing that course of study. Again, you're going to need to tell your story and how it fits into your future plans. And so you want to make sure that whichever you choose, you can explain that.
Yeah, I think the point here is that you are in control of your future. And we don't want anybody to think that some type of visa regulation or something like that should determine what your future will be and the future that you are building for yourselves now. So just figure out what you want, decide how you're going to do it, and make that case to the consular officer. Okay, one more question. I have paid the SEVIS fee. I have submitted the DS-160, and now appointments are not available before my class start date. Can you please give us guidance?
Yeah, as I mentioned a bit earlier, there could be some lead time. There could be a lack of availability for student visa interviews at either the consulate or the embassy. The first piece of advice I would give is to constantly check the application's or the interview website. Sometimes interview slots open up at the last minute, so you'll want to just check that constantly so that if we do open up more interviews, you're able to secure those slots. The other piece of advice I would recommend is to be in communication with your college or university. Let them know your situation. Let them know that you might not be able to get an interview before your program start date, and ask if they can adjust that start date.
Great advice. Another short question. What's the best way to dress for a visa interview?
I think the best piece of advice on what to wear to a visa interview is to be comfortable. wear what makes you comfortable. But I will also note that you could be waiting in line for a while. After you check in, there could be many applicants in front of you, so you could be waiting anywhere from 20 minutes to an hour, some of which could be outdoors. I know in Karachi, at the Consulate General in Karachi, a portion of our waiting area is outdoors. And so you'll want to make sure that you account for that and make sure that when you get to the interview window, you're comfortable.
That's great. Good advice. Another question, how can we prepare for student visa interviews ourselves?
Again, make sure that you bring with you the required documents that we reviewed a little bit earlier in this presentation. Those required documents are also listed on the consulate and embassy websites in case you forget, or if you weren't paying attention earlier, those are always there. They're also on travel.state.gov. And in addition, again, for student applicants specifically, again, the consular officer will want to hear about why you are seeking to study in the United States and how that's going to help you in your current plans and your future plans. We want you to tell your story. Each applicant is unique, so we don't want to hear the same thing that the previous applicant just told us. That's not very helpful to us. But again, what is what you want to study, why you want to study there, how you came to the decision. To decide to study abroad, I'm guessing, is a very difficult decision for a lot of people. And where to study is a very difficult decision. We want to know how you arrived at the decision. And so that would be my advice on how to prepare for your interview.
That's great advice, Noe. Remember, if you are at the academic level, which would allow you to apply for a visa in the United States to go and study in the United States, you are fully capable of taking all the steps you need to get your student visa. You're more than capable of putting together the documents that are required, and you're more than capable of presenting your case. Don't let any outside people tell you they know a better way. And remember that overall, the most important thing is to be honest. Make your best case as to why you should receive a visa to study in the United States, but be honest. Any last words, Noe?
No, I would just say, I know the spring semesters are starting soon in the United States, so if you have an application in process, again, log on to our website and try to make your appointments as soon as possible.
That's great. Well, thank you all for joining us today, and I wish you the very best of luck in both determining what is the best program for you and also compiling all the information you need to make your student visa appointment and interview. And I wish you all the success. Thanks very much.